There you are again. I never thought the two of us would meet again. I just want to start this video off by saying that I made it for school, so it's gonna be a little weird, a little different from what I would normally do on this channel, and it's gonna be kind of presented in a way as if I were doing this for a school project, so it's gonna kind of come off a little different. I just figured it would be a good video to upload, and because it's been quite some time since I've uploaded anything, it would be something good to at least get out. And I did originally have my face in the video, I'm just not super comfortable with like talking to a webcam yet, so it looked a little awkward. So I just kind of re-edited over a bit of the stuff in the video, so hopefully it doesn't look too weird or too bad. I will also throw a few links to videos that I watched to reference in my original essay that this is based off of, just in case you want to go check some of those out. Yeah, that's about it. Hopefully you enjoy, and I'll just let the video play. Hey gamers. In case you were unaware, the gaming industry is huge right now, and continues to grow each year. It has been rapidly evolving to encompass a great variety of styles and genres. Video games have gone from their roots of simple pixels on a two-dimensional plane to vast worlds rivaling the grand spectacle of cinema. Despite the industry's success as one of the world's leading entertainment sources, many do not view video games as an artistic medium. People consistently claim that they are nothing more than a waste of time, and are not worthy of extensive thought. This video counters that by reading the cultural and personal impact that video games provide as justification for their status as art. And beyond that, one of the most important forms of contemporary art. Examining the significance of two of the most prominent games in history, Bioshock and Shadow of the Colossus, this video looks at how video games use themes, thoughtful design, and real-world issues to evoke emotion and meaning in a similar manner to traditional artistic mediums, while also avoiding major spoilers. Video games are a relatively new art form, so it is not incredibly surprising that we see such pushback towards them, as it happened for many other forms of art and artistic movements in the past. What is strange, however, is that in the world of contemporary art that is filled with rampant creativity, there is still fight against video games, despite how incredibly well they fit into the contemporary art scene. In video games, artists are allowed to explore what beauty truly means to them, while posing questions to their society, just as they would be in any other contemporary medium. The medium is so fluid in its creative capacity that it can follow traditional understandings of style and aesthetics, while actively engaging in experiential dynamics similar to those of mediums like performance art. Bioshock, for example, is a game designed around the Art Deco style, sticking to it in every aspect of world design, will also bring the player to question their morality through the choices made in the game. It makes use of both historical and contemporary art styles, not only to place it in a specific time period, but to make it truly connect to the real world. Furthermore, video games, similar to film, allow for rich storytelling and literary conventions. Although this is not true for all games, any video game that aims for something more than simple entertainment value has a strong narrative. This is not only in the direct storytelling, but also built into the worlds, and because of player interaction, it can even go above the environmental storytelling of cinema. Bioshock makes great use of both with its audio logs, allowing the player to hear character and world history while exploring the environment, even going so far as to directly relate itself to the art world.
When Picasso became bored of painting people, he started representing them as cubes and other abstract forms. The world called him a genius. I've spent my entire surgical career creating the same tired shapes over and over again. The upturned nose, the cleft chin, the ample bosom. Wouldn't it be wonderful if I could do with a knife what that old Spaniard did with a brush?
As with all contemporary art, it is essential to look at the cultural significance of video games. Bioshock is a perfect example of the impact and relevance a game can have. To illustrate this point, I will give an overview of the premise. The game forces the player into a city called Rapture that has been built beneath the waves of the Atlantic Ocean. This once great city has been destroyed by a civil war, and those that remain alive have been driven insane by genetic modification. The player is required to fight their way out of Rapture while facing moral decisions and unraveling the history of the once utopian city. Andrew Ryan is the one responsible for building Rapture. He is a man fiercely driven by his strong philosophy, which is meant to be an extension of Ayn Rand's objectivist ideology. Right at the start of the game, Ryan introduces himself and his ideology to the player, establishing what and why Rapture is.
I am Andrew Ryan, and I'm here to ask you a question. Is a man not entitled to the sweat of his brow? No, says the man in Washington, it belongs to the poor. No, says the man in the Vatican, it belongs to God. No, says the man in Moscow, it belongs to everyone. I rejected those answers. Instead, I chose something different. I chose the impossible. I chose Rapture. A city where the artist would not fear the censor, where the scientist would not be bound by petty morality, where the great would not be constrained by the small. And with the sweat of your brow, Rapture can become your city as well.
The proposition that Ryan gives is attractive and is very much meant to be. The director, Ken Levine, thought that it was essential to have it be alluring so that players would actually believe that people would want to abandon their former lives and move to the bottom of the ocean to live in Rapture. It is, however, these very attractive ideals that Ryan promotes that bring about the city's downfall. Rapture's promised freedom is in truth built on hypocrisy. Ryan's own words are the root of the spreading corruption, because they cannot exist without being hypocritical. One of his key phrases, "no gods or kings, only man," implies that everyone is valued by what they make of themselves, and that as long as they do their part, they are their own masters. Yet this is not true in Rapture. First off, this phrase directly excludes women as an equal part of driving society forward. Although women were still valued in Rapture, it implies that men held more valuable positions. Ryan also contradicts this phrase by placing himself in the role of authority in Rapture. He is the king he didn't want to exist. He believed that as founder, his voice was of greater importance, which caused others to make attempts at his crown. The very freedom that Ryan granted allowed Rapture's denizens to explore whatever means imaginable to gain power. On top of that, with the discovery of Adam, a material used for genetic modification, and the invention of plasmids, a derivative of Adam, capable of granting superhuman abilities, power was literally at everyone's fingertips. The people were free to mix art and science without morality blocking them, and without that semblance of control, the city crumbled. The game is making a point about the realistic potential of a utopian society like this, and that Rapture's downfall was not in the utopia, but in the utopian. There is also great hypocrisy in the exclusion of religion from Rapture. Not only is nearly everything in Rapture named after some sort of religious icon, but the name of the city itself is rooted in religion. Furthermore, Ryan established his own gods within the city: science, industry, and art. These gods are then combined into one figure, the Great Chain of Industry. Ryan made the entire population worship this icon in a cult-like fashion to preserve his ideal world. The developers wanted to make these things obvious for the player to see, in order to have them think about similarities within the real world, just as any artwork would. The game is meant to look into the potential of something like Rapture existing. It is meant to critique capitalism and objectivism while maintaining neutrality to look at what the reality might be like instead of why it's wrong. Like all great art, it reflects the time it was made by pointing out issues within the real world. It focuses primarily on Western thought because that's the world that the artists exist within. The developers truly wanted players to think and gave them a vessel through which to do so. Shadow of the Colossus, although a drastically different game, illustrates many of the same points as Bioshock for why video games are a legitimate and culturally significant art form. Again, I will give a brief overview to illustrate the point I am trying to make. The game follows a character named Wander, who ventures into a forbidden land to resurrect a loved one, and to do so, he must assist a sealed away god in destroying 16 creatures. It may seem simple on the surface, but it holds much deeper meaning than is initially visible. The player character is left with an ambiguous name to assist the player in placing themselves in that role, which is incredibly important for the game to achieve its goal, making the player question their actions. The game forces the player to kill innocent creatures in order to achieve their goal. The player character is so blindly driven to save the person he loves that he cannot see that what he is doing is wrong. But that's not true for the player. The player is meant to feel every step of the journey and every action they take. It raises important questions of empathy and morality with each Colossus that is slain. There is also the player's connection with Wander's horse, Agro, that tests their empathy. A large portion of the game is spent riding around with Agro, establishing a real relationship. So, when the player is brought to kill creatures that are not that different from their faithful companion, they must question their actions. It is impossible to talk about the art that is Shadow of the Colossus without mentioning the stunning visuals, the awe-inspiring sound design, and the brilliant score. In fact, let me show you. The game is perhaps the most stunning display of visual and auditory perfection in gaming. The soundtrack is actually meant to tell the story as it flows with the gameplay, and the music was so imperative to the game that the composer was heavily involved in the writing process. Shadow of the Colossus is absolutely bursting with quality and passion, just as any artwork should be. One often overlooked detail in defining video games as art is that the developers themselves are artists. What I mean by this is that they work just like any studio artist would. They follow similar processes and make similar mistakes that eventually make it into the final product. This may seem meaningless, but I truly think that attitude helps define the role of a contemporary artist. I think the most important point in establishing video games as art is that video games touch people on a truly personal level. Anyone that has ever fully experienced a video game can tell stories about how exactly it changed them. They give people a reason to feel and think about things they may have never been able to experience. These two games have such an incredible impact on my life, they have been a huge part of determining my career path. Not to mention how they have impacted countless others as well. Without Bioshock, Shadow of the Colossus, and some other games, I would not be who I am today because they provided me with something I don't think many other mediums can. A real experience. And that is what makes them true contemporary art. Hey, thanks for watching. First off, I just want to say I apologize for kind of the shitty upload schedule lately. School was a lot harder this semester than I ever really imagined, and instantly in the second month of the semester I just got beat down and like super depressed and just couldn't do anything, so I just kind of let YouTube stuff go to the wayside for a bit. I have been streaming on my Twitch channel quite frequently though, even while I'm not doing stuff for YouTube, so if you're looking for more content, I'd really appreciate it if you came and stopped by there. That's twitch.tv/Carnegie, I'll put it on the screen. And just while I'm at it, don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. It really does help me out a lot. Any support I get just keeps me motivated to keep making things, and I'm going to try and be much better this semester of school than I was last. So I'll probably try and stick to like one video a month if I can, and if not, I'll probably tweet about it or something. Just let the community know that I'm maybe taking a little bit of a break just because school is being extra hard. But I'm gonna do my best this semester to get relatively consistent content out. But thanks again for watching, and I'll see you around.